If you're looking to keep your home clean, stay on top of your household chores, and really just make your space one that you enjoy living in, then the layouts we're looking at in this video are for you. All of these layouts have been selected to be specifically surrounding cleaning, so we're not so much looking at things about organizing or tidying, though you could always change these layouts slightly, tweak them a little bit to accommodate for those kind of tasks as well. Our first layout though is having a master cleaning list. I've broken this one down by different types of cleaning, so for instance vacuuming and the spaces you do that in, mopping, the spaces you do that in, sweeping, dusting, and then physical cleaning, chemical cleaning, and rubbish removal. Of course, there are other types of cleaning related tasks. I've just picked out a few that I knew I could make some really good lists for. All of the lists I've set up are in what I call my R&D journal, so they're not ones that are actually in my regular everyday journal that I use, but more so one that I use for idea videos that we put out on this channel. That does of course mean that all of the items that I have in here are just examples, both in terms of the layouts themselves, how I've set them up, and also the tasks that I've populated them with. Another way you could organize a list like this though would be doing it based on the places in your house, so maybe the different rooms, or possibly the materials that you need in order to do that type of cleaning. Having a go-to list of all of the different types of cleaning tasks though could be useful. Our next idea is having a deep cleaning project list, and this is for when you want to get really into the details of your cleaning, get into all of the nooks and crannies that you don't necessarily always get into, and really just do a thorough clean out of whichever space you're focusing on. I've put this one into two lists, so a deep clean of the kitchen and a deep clean of the bathrooms. You might want to make a list like this when it comes to spring cleaning or any kind of seasonal cleaning that you like to do, and having a dedicated list for each of the spaces that you intend to tackle. Then, as you do each of the tasks, you can just cross them off. If you wanted to make this one more like a master list, one that you could use repeatedly, you could always type this one up so you can print it off and stick it into your journal. That way you don't have to rewrite all of the tasks every single time you want to do it. Or you could make this one a reusable list, either by making these cross-offable with pencil, or you could put some contact paper over this page and use it kind of like a whiteboard. Flipping on over though, our next idea is a cleaning challenge. This is a fun way to kind of gamify your cleaning, and in particular, I would populate this with tasks that you don't necessarily do on a regular basis. So not necessarily the things that you would do every day or possibly even every week, but more so those things that you do every so often, kind of infrequently. This one's just set up as a grid going from 1 through to 30, so probably for a 30-day month, and then each day of the month you just tackle whichever task you've got for that day. So day 1, prep your cleaning supplies. Day 2, purge magazines and newspapers. You can also do similar kinds of challenges for things like decluttering and organizing, but all of the tasks on here are mainly focused around the idea of cleaning specifically. Another cleaning related layout you might want to have is a cleaning by room space, which gives you a place to write down all of the regular cleaning tasks that you do in each of the different areas in your home. You may also want to accompany this with some kind of a list of materials that you need. So when you're cleaning the kitchen, what kind of supplies do you need to get out? When you're doing the bedrooms or the living room or the bathroom, how does this change or differ? It means that when you come to do cleaning in that space, you know all of the things that you need to check off your list. This can also act as a handy reference for when you want to migrate these kind of tasks into your daily actions list, or any task list that you have in your planner to hold you to account on doing the things that you, in theory, want to do to keep your spaces clean. Obviously there are only 3 spaces on this list, so you could take the decoration pieces out and just make this a 1-page layout, or you could expand it over 2 pages depending on the number of spaces you have in your home, or the number of spaces that you specifically are required to clean. After this one though, the next layout idea we have is cleaning zones. So some people, when they like to tackle their cleaning, they like to think about their home in terms of spaces or areas that are kind of adjacent to each other rather than individual rooms. For a page like this, you can make a little floor map and maybe color code it or number them. I just found this example online and printed it out. And then for any extra space you have on the page, you can elaborate on the tasks that you do in those spaces. So in which spaces do you need to vacuum? In which spaces do you need to mop? This is again another one that could be made into some kind of a master list. So putting contact paper over the top, turning it into a whiteboard so you can check these things off repeatedly, or you could make it a digital file that you print off and stick in. But I think it's a bit of fun having the graphic of the floor plan and the list accompanying it. It just makes for a visually interesting layout as well. Another big idea, which can take many forms, is that of a cleaning schedule. Now this one is notably a weekly schedule with a row for each of the days of the week, and then up to 4 cleaning tasks that you can do on each of those days. If you needed more space, you could expand this over 2 pages, but you can also set these up so they're monthly, quarterly, even annual cleaning plans, really depending on what kind of time frame you need for the tasks that you're doing for your cleaning. When setting up your schedule though, do make sure that it's going to be manageable. There's not much use in setting up a schedule that has a heap of different things packed onto every single day when realistically we can't keep up with that. If you set yourself an intentionally manageable plan, you're going to be much more likely to stick with it and feel a lot better about yourself. You may also want to bake some flexibility into your cleaning schedule. For me, I know that the only real things that are very set in terms of our cleaning routines are when we take the bins out and when we do the laundry. Everything else just fits in wherever else it can, depending on what's going on in the week. Another fun idea for a cleaning schedule, rather than setting it up as a page in your journal, for a weekly layout in particular, put this in as a flip out in the front of your journal. That way, you can flip it out and refer to it from whichever page you're working on. Makes for a very handy reference when you're using other pages in your journal. But flipping on over, our next idea here is themed cleaning days. So this one is kind of similar to what we had with the schedule, except you don't necessarily have to do all of these things every single week. It's more so if you pick a week that you're going to do them, which day are you going to do those tasks on? As said at the start, all of the things that I've populated in these pages are completely just examples. So if you go through and the frequency of some tasks looks a little odd, or maybe you feel like I've forgotten something, just know that all of the things that I've written in here are only intended to make it so you can see how the pages would be used. In terms of the layout though, you can see it's fairly simple. We just have a space for each of the days of the week and a little list of the tasks that could be done on those days. On the extra space down the bottom here, I've just put a piece of decoration, but you could of course include another box for things that you want to try and do every week that don't necessarily have a set day to do them on. They just get put in wherever they can go. Up until this point, we've mainly been looking at reference style pages, but trackers are also really helpful when it comes to our cleaning and keeping up to date with it. This one is a more visually interesting tracker style than some of the other potential types, where you can see the inner ring here tells us the frequency of the tasks, and then the very outer ring is where we actually track those tasks. You can see in this one I've said that blue means that it's completed and brown means that it's started. If I haven't colored anything in, then it means it hasn't been started. But for instance, this task here, or this section, is daily tasks, and this one is a 10-minute tidy. So if on the first I do that 10-minute tidy, I can color this section in blue, and if on the second day I don't end up doing it, I'll leave it uncolored. The third day maybe I did it, I can color it in, so on and so forth. This one was drawn out using this stencil here from Erin Floto Designs. We do have a separate video on the channel about this tracker and how it works specifically. That one's linked in the description box if you wanted to check it out. Of course, if you're setting up a monthly tracker, it doesn't have to look quite as complex as this one. I just like the fact that it looks a little bit visually interesting. But flipping over, our next idea is a page to tell you how often you should do certain cleaning tasks. Or, because you're setting this one up yourself, it's how often you want to. In this one, you just separate the page into different sections based on frequency. So daily, weekly, semi-weekly, monthly. You could also include quarterly, annually, depending on what kind of cleaning tasks you have and how frequently you want to do them. But this just gives you a nice reference of the types of things that you want to do on however a frequent of a basis. My general recommendation is that try and make sure that your daily list isn't too long. Most of us have far better things to do with our time than clean our houses. That's not to say we don't want to keep our houses clean, but there is more to do. Also, do not feel worried if in writing this type of list out for yourself, you don't have the same things exactly as I have on this one. Remember, these are all just ideas, and your home and household probably look different to mine. You may have a different number of people, a different number of animals, a different environment or climate that you're living in, and all of those are going to have an impact on the types of tasks you need to do and the frequency with which you need to do them. Another layout that is semi-related to this one though is a when did I last layout. Now this one in particular is for the types of tasks that you probably don't need to do on a super frequent basis, maybe just a couple of times a year or once a quarter, that kind of a thing. But the way it works is that we list out all of those tasks, the semi-infrequent ones, and then all of the columns on the right here are for the months of the year. So each of them just having an initial that indicates which month I'm talking about. Then whenever I do one of these tasks in any of these months, I can just write down the number of the day in the relevant month column. So let's just say that cleaning the fridge shelves happened on March 15th. So underneath M for March, I would just write 15, and that indicates that the last time I did this was the 15th of March. That means that depending on how frequently I want to do this, I can see that I need to do it again in the next 1, 2, however many months. After this one though, our next layout idea is a quick cleaning tasks list. So this is for when you have those small pockets of time where you want to do something around the house to keep it tidy, keep it clean, and depending on how much time you have, you want to know what it is you can do. I've separated this one out into 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 30, or 60 minutes, and underneath each of those headers you just write in the tasks that you could do or accomplish in that period of time. I've also put a little quote down the bottom that says, "Excuse the mess, we live here." And that one is a quote that I put on my very first cleaning list back in 2017, where you can see this one broke down my cleaning tasks into daily items, weekly items, monthly and seasonal or quarterly, and then had a little box to fill in when I had done that thing for each of those weeks, months, seasons. I wasn't very successful in using it, but I did like the layout, even if it was a bit of a shame to spend all the time and effort setting it up and then not actually filling it out. But moving that one to the side, another way you could kind of use a list like this would be if you have maybe a small amount of time before people are popping around, what kind of things could you actually do? So if you have 60 minutes before they arrive, can I do one of the 60-minute tasks? Could I do a 30-minute and 2 15-minute tasks? Kind of like a build your own impromptu cleaning routine page? I don't know, but to me it makes the cleaning seem a little bit more fun. This next layout is about who is doing the cleaning, and so I've divided this into 5 separate people, kind of thinking about a home sharing situation where you have multiple people who would do chore type work in the household, and then you can specify which tasks are for which people. I've done this kind of in a scheduled way, so putting Monday through Sunday in each of these, along with a W for like a weekly focus area or something like that. But you could just write this out as a list of things that those people are in charge of, whether they be daily, weekly, or monthly actions. While this style could be helpful to have as a reference for yourself in your journal, it might be more helpful having this in a shared space where all of these people can see it, just so they know what is their responsibility versus not their responsibility. This can also be a very good way to hold yourself account to not doing too much cleaning work, making sure that that responsibility is shared in your household. On to our next idea though, and this one, similar idea but with a slightly different focus, is a kids chore tracker. Now you can literally set this one up for yourself, it does not actually have to be for children, and both of the examples we have here are kind of for weekly chores more than anything else, so you can see that each of them has a little weekly tracker where you can write down the tasks and check off the days they got done. For this bottom one in particular, this one is also associating each task with a certain amount of money, so maybe chores in your household come with a bit of pocket money or an allowance, and then depending on how many instances they do, they get a certain total at the end of the week. We do also have some general task lists here too though, where you can write down things that need to be done at some point in the week but not every single day. And while both of these are set up to be weekly focused, you could do a similar type of thing for a monthly focus if you wanted to. This is probably another one that, depending on how you want to use it, could be good to put somewhere a bit more visible, especially for the people in question. So if this is actually for your kids, then you might want to put it somewhere they can see it. But our next idea is a gamified cleaning list. I love to gamify things to kind of trick myself into doing them, especially when they're things that I don't really want to do, and cleaning is certainly one of those things. In this case, at the top, we would specify how many points you need to get to reach certain levels. So maybe to get to level 1, you need 5 points, level 2 was 10 points, so on, so forth. And then each of the cleaning tasks that you want to do can be attributed to a certain number of points. Then as you do them, you accumulate your points, you get to new levels. How you break down which tasks receive which types of points really depends on which kind of cleaning tasks you find most difficult. The ones you find difficult or less inclined to do, a bit more of a challenge to do, you give those the most points to kind of reward yourself for doing them. Whereas the ones that are a little bit easier, maybe they take less time, less effort, those ones get the lowest number of points. How you break down how many points are for each of your levels also depends on the time frame you want to do this over. For instance, if this is a weekly tracker rather than a monthly, then you probably aren't gonna get to 110 points by the end of the week. I mean, you could, really depends on how you divvy up your points. And of course, how much time, effort, attention you want to put into your cleaning. This is one that I would probably set up as a reference page in my journal, and then use it on a either weekly or monthly basis to incentivize myself to do those cleaning tasks. That means that month after month or week after week, I could track my progress, track what kind of level I got myself up to, and possibly even tie rewards to this so that I can treat myself for having done my cleaning work, especially because cleaning is not something I really enjoy. But the next layout idea we have is having a products list in your journal. This is a place to write down the cleaning products that you know, like, trust, the ones that you've used before and they actually worked, versus the ones you purchased which didn't really work so well. Maybe you didn't find them to be particularly useful for the job that they were assigned to do. Maybe you didn't like the smell. Maybe they just weren't fit for purpose. You can also consider this to be a list of things that you can use on different surfaces. So maybe there are certain materials that you use that are really good for cleaning your ceramic countertops, but not so good for cleaning your metal sink. I always find myself very apprehensive to use certain types of cleaners because I'm just not sure how they're going to react with different materials in my home, so having a reference for that could be really useful. On this one, I've just used the double check to say, yes, I very much like this is my favorite, a single check to say this is a good alternative, and a cross to say this one I tried, it does not work. Continuing on with the idea of favorites though, you might want to have a list of your own personal favorites when it comes to your cleaning supplies. This can also kind of act as a bit of a shopping list, so to make sure that you have all of those things in stock anytime you go to do your cleaning, or if you need to replace anything, you know what products are the ones that you actually like to use. You could even set this one up more as a stock list, so telling yourself how much do you have in stock of each of these materials. That way when it runs out, you can make sure to get it so that when it comes to doing your cleaning, you don't find, oh, I actually did mean to have Jif in stock but don't have it anymore. Another handy reference that could be good to have in your journal is a space for quick cleaning solutions. For those types of cleaning that don't necessarily pop up all the time, but every single time they do pop up, you find yourself Google searching, how do I deal with this? Rather than having to search that information up time and time again, putting it down into your journal for a safe place to keep it could be really useful. I've just set this one up with a variety of different boxes around some decoration, but you could just have this as a simple list with the explanations underneath each of your bulleted points. Another idea that we don't have a layout for, but I think could be really useful, is some kind of a quick cleaning routine for when you really don't have a lot of time on your hands, but you want to get as much done as possible. Maybe breaking down the different tasks that you could do and rough amounts of time to do it in, so that you can streamline your cleaning process and get a lot done in a small span of time. But I would love to hear any other ideas you have for cleaning related layouts we can use in our journals. Drop them down in the comments below. And if you are still on the hunt for more cleaning, home organization inspiration, then this playlist is the next one to check out. That one in particular has a bunch of my different reset processes, which are very much about getting myself cool, calm, and collected in my space. So click or tap on that one and I'll see you over there.